funny, I'm always in front of cameras, and with the audio recording to it, that makes it a different element.
Go where your eyes take you.
Okay. Alright, so I'll do it. Hi, my name is Duane. I'm a Southern California-based photographer, and the story I'm going to talk about today is something that has greatly impacted me in my adult life. And the story is about how I became homeless just a few months after graduating high school. To any of my friends that may see or hear this one day, if you don't know already, surprise. Well, it wasn't just me that became homeless, it was me and my family. All my life, me and my family were just shy of broke. We were scraping by most of our lives. For most of my high school, lived in a motel. Even 1 week of my freshman year in high school, me and my parent, my mom, my sister, and one other person were sleeping in a car. And then we were able to find a place, stay for a little bit, but still barely scrounging by. Well, finally after graduation, our luck ran out. My dad, who had the most stable paying job in the house, lost his job and we weren't able to pay rent. At this point, I'd already started full-time student in college at a local community college, and on top of taking classes, moving everything to storage, trying to figure out what was going on or what our plan was going to be. Me and my mom, we moved in with a friend in Riverside, which is just a little drive from where I grew up. And things were fine until things were no longer fine. And fights started happening, drama, and it just got to be the point we couldn't stay there anymore. When we ran out of places to go, me, my mom, and my father became homeless, living on the streets in a car. And for some time after that, my grandma let us stay in her parking or in her driveway. At night, we would go over to my grandma's house, and they gave us a spot to cook, as well as a safe place to sleep, not having to sleep in the unknown. And then when my dad finally got back to work a year later, things happened at my grandma's house where we couldn't stay there anymore as well. And this pushed me and my mom into the unknown. And by the unknown, I mean the fact of staying somewhere that had no security. When you live somewhere, you have locked doors. You have this barrier protecting you from the outside. When you're sleeping in a car, all of that is gone. And it can be a very interesting feeling, and to some people that I've known have dealt with that, it's a very scary feeling. On top of all of that, I was working and still going to school full time. I could have easily stopped going to school and picked up a full-time job at a warehouse or something, but I know the effect that would have had on my mom. She already put a lot of stress on her shoulders, feeling bad, and sometimes even saying that there was failures having me live on the street so young and stuff because she couldn't help. So I didn't want to just give up on school and add that extra pressure to my mom. So the entire time I was going to Chafee College for off and on for 6 years. 5 of those years I was homeless, living in a car, and trying to not show this, trying to make sure that I had clean clothes, clean myself, make sure that I didn't smell bad, I didn't draw attention to me. I'm a very prideful person, and pride is a double-edged sword. It's something that has greatly helped me, but in some cases has made some things impossible for me. Even now, recording this, the most scary part is people that I haven't told, close friends that I've never told, finding out about this. I'm no longer homeless, so it's less of an impact, but it's something that can be very scary because people are going to have their judgments. And while I think some of my closest friends who are down to earth will understand, and in some cases some of my friends that did know, they just found it even more amazing what I achieved. I'm a hard worker and I bust my ass. but it's scary to think like I'm a very open person, and this is about the only secret I have from most. I remember one of my bosses that found out, and it was hard telling him. And he questioned me about it. He had something similar happen to him when he was younger, and he put me into this seminar program called Landmark down in LA. And one of my courses that I was taking down there, I opened up to my group of 5 or 6 people at the time and told them about my homelessness and stuff like that. I remember shaking afterwards because it was hard to tell 5 individuals at once that I was homeless, just to open myself up like that. Prior to then, only about 6 people collectively knew, outside of people in my situation.
Where are you going now? Where are you headed? I know where you're headed,
I guess to say where I'm headed is still an unknown. Photography in itself, my goal is to work within photography, and that's a wide spectrum to say. I want to figure out where I want to go, but aside from that, while being homeless, I kind of figured the only way that I can ever improve my situation, and I made my own vow to myself that if I ever have a family, they will not go through what I've had to go through. I will not watch someone I care about be on the streets and feel helpless that I can't help them. I will not watch my son or my daughter, if I ever have one, be homeless. I will not watch my wife be homeless. So, in order to prevent that, I value education, and not just education that the schools teach. Schools teach a very specific education, and I've invested in my own income outside of school, books, videos, seminars, mentors, as much as I could while in the situations that I was, and even more so now that I'm no longer in that situation. Where to say I'm headed next? Running a successful business, that's the goal within photography, and several other side things to go on. Like right now, I'm working on setting up investments and setting up stuff that when things turn south again. So it's not a matter of if, it's when. Life will always throw curves and punches at you. So I'm preparing myself for that so that I don't have to go through this again. And hopefully my family doesn't have to go through it either. If I can do something to prepare for that, then I should do that now before that situation comes.
But where does this value lie with you in terms of being homeless?
Yeah, I'd say it is very different than most of my friends and or people in my age category. Some of the things I gained out of it was further strengthening my work ethic. I have older parents that, in comparison to most people my age, so I have older values that were taught to me, which was be a hard worker. But being forced into homelessness and having to do whatever it takes to survive, especially with my morals, where I won't do something illegal or greatly illegal, since working on the table sometimes is counted as illegal. I won't do something greatly illegal to make income, and I won't take handouts. Goes back to the dual edge of the pride. Fortifying having to work hard and solve problems. Like, I call myself a creative problem solver because when I have a problem, homelessness was a problem, eating was a problem, showering was a problem, hiding the fact that I was homeless was a problem. Having to find solutions to all of that. That's definitely something I took out of it. I've also taken that how greatly people judge people by what you look like. Not specifically just saying, not in my case, I've seen where people look down upon others that did look homeless. I could say while I was homeless, I never significantly looked homeless. I had roughly a week's worth of clothes. I had some professional attire for when I had to show up to jobs dressed professionally. While I was homeless, one of my bosses, while he didn't know I was homeless, he bought me a brand new suit to wear to jobs that I had to wear suits. So in one way, I guess you could say I've been lucky or blessed to have people like that that have been able to help me out. Um, I also say you can look at things that are bad in a negative way and only see the negative, or you can see something that's good comes out of it. I was forced to grow up younger and act upon a higher level. While some of my friends, if you see this, you guys might think otherwise, because I don't act serious all the time. It's another thing I've learned. Life is too short to always be serious. Uh, After that situation, I could have just been a stick in the mud and just been focusing on working constantly and not enjoying life. But life is short. I've known some people that unfortunately didn't live long enough to make it out of their situation of homelessness, and that just further perpetuates trying to enjoy it while we're here. The work ethic and just knowing the value of what I've attained. I've had people tell me, especially because of being white, that I have it easy. Or they assume that my life is all set because every white person they've known or every white person they've heard of has a great background, a family that's wealthy. I had a friend of mine, he did not believe me when he was like, oh, you're white, you're better off than me. And I told him, dude, I'm homeless. He did not believe me, even when I explained my situation. And it's funny that they think the color of your skin defines what's the worst things you can go through. And even now that I'm no longer homeless, to see the repercussions of it, like, I'm a hard worker. I get some stuff that's free from different jobs or just random things. I get things that, hey, we don't need this anymore. This is collecting dust. Do you want this? And I guess one thing I've learned is to not turn away useful things. I've gotten strobes, I've gotten good deals on gear, which helped me in my career, and to get jobs that help keep me from going back to homelessness. And then somebody who knows apparently nothing about me, despite working for 5 years together, chalks it up to white privileges. So I get to see that people don't understand and look at what someone goes through when they're judging you. And thankfully for being homeless, it's grounded me in a way that I don't think I do that as often as others. Not to say that I never judged someone or never made an assumption. We all have. It's human. But I say being homeless has helped teach me, like, I've known people who were white, Mexican, black, Asian, everything that have gone through tough times. While being homeless, I knew several other people that prior to being homeless, I didn't notice these people. I didn't know about their situation. While being homeless, I knew a man that as soon as he turned 18 and came out to his parents about being gay, they kicked him on the streets. On the streets, he got the shit beat out of him for being gay. So, I guess this may be going off in a tangent or in the opposite direction, but experiencing this stuff with the people who are within the same community as you, it's helped ground me. It's helped me have a more open mind to things that can happen and other people's situations. I'd say that's something I've gotten out of it, and I wish there was other ways to experience these situations, not necessarily situations, but to gain the benefits. Because I see so many people in my age category that even friends that are a couple years ahead of me in age have none of these characteristics. And it's not like these are earth-shattering, groundbreaking ideas. Like, being a hard worker is easy. Everyone should understand that to some degree, in my opinion. Having been in the situations that forced me to have to perform and forced me to perform on a higher level than my coworkers, that allowed me to get to where I am and where I want to be, it's just kind of crazy to see that some people do have it an easy road. And then they don't see it. They complain about their situation. They complain about what they don't have or what they have that's not good enough. And they don't stop to think about other people. Like, the situation could always be worse, is what my mom taught me growing up. You never have it the worst. While I was homeless, I had a car to sleep in. While the car wasn't as good as a cozy bed, it kept the rain off of me. It helped keep some of the cold out. It kept an extra barrier that somebody would have to go through in order to do something if somebody wanted to do something. The person that I knew that got beat up for being gay, he'd sleep on benches and use cardboard as a padding. He didn't have that luxury. He had it worse. I knew people who had slept in fields and would be kicked out and harassed by cops. They had it worse. People in developing countries, they have it worse. So having that mindset growing up and taking that into being homeless, it just didn't allow me to feel pity for myself. Because I guess it's out of character for me, but also wouldn't have achieved anything. Neither would bitching about my situation. Like we talked earlier, I believe in problem solving, not problem creating. I think that's something that I really wish more people understood.
You said earlier that you wish that there were other ways that people could basically, or at least you could have learned this. You could learn what you learned based off of your experience. Do you think that there are other ways to have learned this?
Yes, there's no one way to learn something. There's always multiple paths to learning. What I do think, though, is this accelerated that learning curve. I know people that have lost their parents at a young age. My mom lost her father at 5 years old. That forced her to grow up. She took it upon herself to grow up younger. She took extra responsibilities and extra discipline. And in some ways, this was the same for me. I was the only one capable of easily getting work. I had the easiest time to make money to make sure that me, my mom, and my dad would eat every night. To keep gas in my car so that I can continue making it to work and school. And time is a great teacher. Eventually, time would have taught this to most people. And not everyone would get it. If I took anything out of a psychology class that I'd take at college, is we have 4 levels of psychological development. Most people don't make it to the 4th. What's that?
What is that?
So I don't recall all of them individually. Basically, the first stage is learning about yourself and understanding that you are basically a being. The second is learning about things around you. The third is about understanding not everything is about you and learning about others. And I forget what the fourth stage is. But it's above and beyond, and it's learning to take yourself out of the situation, if I recall correctly, so that you can look at something objectively rather than emotionally. And in some cases, I would just link this up with the higher level of maturity. And I don't remember the statistics, but I want to say 65% of people don't reach that level of psychological development. And it's at different stages of your life. Like, the first stage happens when you're about 2 or 3 years old. The second stage is 5 or 6 years old. Your morals, they come in about 7. The third stage hits you about 13. And then the final stage hits you somewhere in your mid to later teens. if it hits you.
Aside from the statistics, it sounds like that you still wholeheartedly believe in those 4 stages. What have you experienced that has led you to that? Aside from the statistics.
I mean, aside from the statistics, it's just observing it. While being in the situations that I saw people who couldn't see the world beyond themselves. I have a friend that was in a very similar situation to me during the same time, and he couldn't see beyond the sucks this is happening to me. Not just, well, look across the parking lot. There's 10 other vehicles. Each one has another person or more than one person in it. I have other friends that still, they talk about, well, poor me, and it's like, this world is not a nice place. This world, if you're not prepared for it, will destroy you. And it's just, I think it's an essential skill to be able to think beyond yourself. Because if it's all about you, when someone doesn't care about you and they have the power to influence you, it could be destructive to your world. And then when you do have that ability to step outside of the situation and look at something logically, you're like, okay, my situation's not that bad. Like, my first 2 cars, my first car was an 82 pickup that helped me be able to get to work. I bought it while I was homeless from an old English teacher that I was doing under the table yard work for. And I got the truck for $400. I worked 3 days a week at our house doing yard work, construction, and whatever odd tasks they needed. And they helped me put brand new tires on there. They paid half, I paid half. So for $600, I had a running vehicle. Wasn't a great looking vehicle. The paint was peeled. It sounded like it was about to explode at any given moment. But it got me from location to location. Hell, during the time that I had 2 fires with the car. I had a gas fire that started spewing smoke and fire out the hood. I had an electrical fire that burned through all the electrical. There was one night I was driving when one of the times that we were staying with a friend in Riverside. I was driving home. Electrical surge blew out all the lights. I'm driving down the street with a flashlight saying, I'm a truck, don't pull me over. Because it's the middle of night, like 10 o'clock, I'm coming home. What was even scarier was there was a cop swerving the freeway, leading traffic. I'm like, all he needs to see is this beat up, ugly looking truck with no lights. I didn't have the money to pay for, like, fix a ticket. I didn't have the money to get it out of a pound, like getting out of pound. So it was just, I dealt with the worst piece of shit car. I've developed trust issues with cars because of that truck. And when the engine finally blew on me, like, I maybe had 30 seconds of cussing, and then I was just like, well, shit happens. I've got a job to go do. Went to work. 6 weeks later, bought another dump. It was just, I did what I had to do to survive. And I didn't complain that my car wasn't as new as my friends. Like, if anything, I was glad I had a car that was paid for.
What would you say to the whole notion of faith? And I'm not talking religious faith, whatever it means to you, but just faith in itself. What does that mean to you, given what you've gone through and where you're headed and what has worked out for you?
Faith is an interesting concept. And from a religious standpoint, I don't belong to any one religion. I've gone to Christian churches before with friends. I've gone to Catholic churches with friends. I know friends that I've had conversations with that are Middle Eastern and Buddhists and other stuff. My concept for that is anybody can have their own. If you have faith in a certain thing and it works for you, it works for you. And faith outside of religion, I believe everyone's going to have faith in certain things. Whether it be you have faith that your car is going to get you to work on time, or that your car is going to get you to work without breaking down on you, or faith that the store will always have XYZ or whatever it is. There's some form of faith in every little day or every little task that we have in life. Like, we're expecting this to happen. We have faith that this is going to happen, or we have faith that this is there, or whatever. I don't think too often about faith because I was taught to be proactive, and waiting for fate to hand you something isn't proactive. When fate does hand you something, it's wonderful. It's nice that you don't have to worry about something. You don't have to expend extra effort and energy to do what you need to do or to get what you need to get. And then even faith in the religious aspect is, if you're not proactive, what is faith going to hand you? What have you deserved, or how have you been deserving to have fate hand you something? I was told a quote, and I've heard this plenty of times. A man was drowning, and a boat came by to save him, and he says, "No thanks, God will save me." Another boat came by, tried to save him, said, "No thanks, God will save me." The man ends up drowning, and he's like, "What the hell, God? I sent you 2 boats," God said. And it's like, fate can send you something, but if you do nothing proactive with it or to assist it, what is it going to do? If I were to say, if anybody can gain anything from this, it would be to realize there's always going to be someone who has it worse. So be thankful what you have, be caring, and find out about what's going on with people. Not everyone has it easy. Not everyone has it hard. Not everyone has a great life. I guess it would just be more compassionate, be more human. People are so quick to separate people from themselves. You don't look like me, so you have to be different. You don't think like me, you have to be different. You don't sound like me. Oh, you're a different gender. We're all human. Be more human.